I'm sitting at the airport right now, so tired because I flew to New York and I'm flying back all in the same day. But it was for the most incredible experience because I spoke at the United Nations today. It was for a side panel, and it was just such an incredible experience. So I'm gonna just toss up the main clips from that event and go try to sleep because I'm so tired. I've been up since 3 a.m. Thanks, guys.
I would first like to welcome the person on my left, Rachel Gilmore. And Rachel is an award-winning Canadian journalist who has very extensive experience in reporting on federal politics, human rights, disinformation, and extremism. And also, her work has led to be one of those public figures that has been victim of harassment and unpleasant comments online and also in person. So we would very much like to hear from you, Rachel. And as a female journalist, if you could tell us what are what does it feel like being in the public eye and to experience this hatred online and offline? And if you can share also your story and how it has impacted your life.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the first question there, I think it just feels so fundamentally unfair, right? Because the price that you have to pay to participate in public life shouldn't be to be harassed constantly, to pay with your safety and the safety of your loved ones. So, you know, and to touch on my story, that's absolutely the price that I have paid. And that, you know, in an issue that I feel quite guilty about, my loved ones to a degree have also paid that price. So when I first started particularly reporting on extremism and far-right extremism especially, I noticed a real uptick in harassment, particularly around the Freedom Convoy protests that took place in Canada. And, but it really got bad, I think it was that summer after those protests. And it was this anonymous email campaign that targeted myself and several other female journalists, especially women of color as well. And they threatened us in the most hideous, horrifying ways. And it got so bad that the Spy Agency for Canada showed up at my apartment door one day and said in a, I don't think entirely joking tone, that maybe I should wear a wig and contacts when I leave my apartment. And you know, this was something I dealt with. I was in my 20s and I used to go out with friends and have a personal life on top of my work life, but I didn't feel safe going out anymore. I would have panicky feelings when I'd just be out and about in a big crowd because of these threats that I was constantly getting for the work I was doing. And they ended up being fair concerns because not once but twice I was minding my own business on a day off. And the first time I was just walking home and someone stopped me and they recognized me because I do a lot of short form video content. And they just mentioned that they knew me from my work. And it turns out that as I was speaking to them, their colleague had taken a photograph of me and posted it to a white supremacist forum online saying exactly where I was walking. And so I had to duck into a shopping mall and buy a hoodie, which not cheap either. And, you know, and then I had to figure out whether I was going to be followed home and would ultimately have to move, because if these people find out where I live, you have to uproot your whole life. And to this day, I have to think about that. I tell friends when they come over, don't take a picture that shows anything out of the window, nothing like that. And then the second occasion, I had someone drive hours to a night out that I was having with my partner, he's a musician, and they were covertly filming me watching my partner for his entire set. And then they just showed up outside and started yelling at me and filming me. And they clearly had a lot of misinformation in their diet. And it was really unsettling to know that someone found out where I was going on a private night out and drove hours to be there. But these are the kinds of very real things, and I'm lucky that they weren't more serious. But one day they're going to be. And that should not be the price that we pay for doing good journalism, because impactful journalism does make people uncomfortable, and it does make people who are doing something that perhaps they shouldn't, like engaging in extremism. It makes them feel angry with the person exposing it. But the response that it just ruins not only your life, but the life of your loved ones is just so utterly unacceptable and antithetical to democracy and freedom of speech.
Thank you very much for sharing that, and it's true, there are many worrying signs, what you say, but also worrying signs that you didn't at first get advice or protection, but rather change your physical appearance so you can feel safe.
Yes, and I should mention actually that was a massive element of it as well, which was that I went to law enforcement repeatedly, and not one charge has been laid. And I had grown men making videos, pulling knives out on camera, and I knew their identities. And nothing happened. I was told that wasn't a threat under the Criminal Code of Canada. I had, all kinds of situations similar to that. There was a man who threatened me from his work email. And when the police called him, they called me afterwards and said, "Oh, he said he was hacked." So, and I was like, well, do you just believe him? And they said, well, and then they dropped it, and I was failed so repeatedly by law enforcement. And even by my own employer, who their response was to mitigate their own risk and tell me to shut down all my social media accounts, which then you're just punishing the journalists, which is disproportionately going to be women and disproportionately going to be people of color. You're silencing them. You're doing the bidding of the people who are doing the harassing. So, when you get failed at every level like that, it becomes apparent that there needs to be really structural change made.
Thank you, and of course all these then will not show in any statistics or data either.
On a personal note, baby Rachel, who studied human rights in her undergrad, would be losing her shit over this. What do you think of all this?